Hello, this is video number 5 about my P38 grades and upgrades. In this video I will present you my EAS Electronic Air Suspension Reliability Plan and also how I diagnose and I repaired a malfunction on the electronic air suspension. To better understand how the air suspension works on a Range Rover P38, it is good to know the location of the components. The main components are the electronic control unit is under the front left seat. You also have the compressor is on the engine bay that provides the air needed for the system to work. The air dryer is also located on the engine bay, preventing moisture to be inside the air springs. The valve block, it's aside from the compressor inside the same box. The reservoir is under the car and is under the right seat. There are several height sensors, one on the right and left side on the front wheel, and these sensors gives you the position, telling you that the car is in low or medium or high position regarding the ground. There are two on the front of the car, one on each wheel, and also two on the rear, one on each wheel on the rear. The front air springs, rubber made. The original are from the brand Dunlop, and there are also like Arnott. There are one on each wheel on the front, and also one on each wheel on the back. The relays and fuses, there are several on the fuse box that is on the engine bay. There are two main relays there, one that controls the compressor and the other that controls the system, the valve block. The driver controls are inside the cabin, where you have the toggle switch to go up and down, and several LEDs that indicates the position of the car, if it's on the low mode, on the low position, on medium or high. I also had here another device that I think is important. That's the delay timer unit that is near the ECU under the front left seat, and this delay timer unit is used to control the so-called self-leveling of the car. The car has a feature that self-levels during the night when it's parked and also when it's in movement. It provides a delay. Upon that time, it starts triggering the self-leveling. So it detects if the car is too much low on the front or on the back and corrects the suspension for the car to be leveled. This works when the car is working, but also when the car is parked. It's normal for you to notice that you leave the car on the garage and the next day the car is in low position. It may be triggered by this self-leveling. So why did I put here, I added to this diagram the delay timer unit. The delay timer unit is a relay that is operated it has a ground signal. There's a black cable there, a black wire, and if you inhibit that black wire that is ground, the relay won't work. And if the relay doesn't work, it means that the car doesn't do the self-leveling, so it doesn't start to try to compensate the suspension to make the car leveled. Why is that good or needed? If you don't have the self-leveling operating, the car won't do the self-leveling. So it means that it keeps the car on the same position, doesn't make the self-leveling. If you leave the car on the garage with the self-leveling off, with this disconnected, so the car won't deflate the front or rear springs to compensate and to level. If it does that in the morning, next morning, you'll need to operate the compressor. The car will need to operate the compressor to refill the reservoir because the air was leaked from the springs, and then the air from reservoir went to the springs and the reservoir went empty, and then you need to operate the compressor. So there's no need for that. Another thing that I discovered is that when you have a malfunction on the system, on the dash there are 4 LEDs light on, meaning that there is a malfunction on electronic air suspension. I try this. I disconnect the relay and connect it again, and the system makes some sort of reboot, and for a moment the malfunction goes away and the system starts working again. And if the malfunction is a repeated one, so we need to address what is the problem. So what happens when for the car to make a self-leveling when it's on the road? The car doesn't have the regulation for the front lights. It's because the car is always self-leveled with a load, with people and load. The car goes down on the back, but then the self-leveling pulls the car up and the lights keep working as they should. When you go downhill, the center of gravity of the car, the people and the load, goes a bit in the front of the car. So the front of the car goes down, and when it goes down, the lights will light shorter. The distance is shorter, and then what the car does increases the suspension, goes up on the front to make the car leveled. The same happens when the car is going uphill. When it's going uphill, the center of gravity moves a bit to the back, so the car goes down on the back, and the self-leveling starts and pushes the car up by putting some more air on the rear springs, so the car is leveled to the ground and the lights keep lighting at the same distance. So this means that when you are traveling, when you are on flat ground and then going down, the car starts self-leveling, and then you go uphill and the car starts self-leveling on the back. Downhill, self-leveling on the front. Uphill, self-leveling on the back. This means that the car is always losing air on the air springs, and the compressor is working at all time, not at all times, but it's working frequently to put air on the reservoir. So the car is always leaking air and compressing air, leaking air and compressing air. That's one of the main reasons I think the compressor on these cars doesn't last long. So when you are going off-road, this is even worse, because the car is always going up and down and the self-leveling is always working. That's why I put a switch on the relay, on the timer relay, and when I go off-road I switch off the relay. And also when the car is on the garage at night, I switch off the relay. If you're going on a highway, you don't notice practically the compressor doesn't work. There's no need to refill the reservoir. But when you are going on roads that going up and down, and mainly on off-road, the compressor is working a lot, and that wears down the compressor really quick. So my recommendation is, if you have a system that switch off the timer, the timer relay, maybe the compressor will last much longer. That's what I do on my car. So this is my reliability plan for my P38. Here I show you what I think is the more likely to break down or to have a malfunction in the air suspension system, and some things that I did to improve or to prevent that malfunctions and to improve reliability. One of the things I think that can have a malfunction is the airbags, the air springs. Each wheel has their own airbag or air spring, and they are reliable. I have on my car for more than 10 years. They don't have a leak. They never let me down. But if car rides real rough on rough terrain, I guess it may blow up. And if there is some impact with those springs, they can make a hole or a scratch and leak the air easily. That never happened to me, but the air springs are quite fragile when compared to steel coil springs. Another thing that I think is very likely to have a malfunction, for me it happens twice, is the height sensor. Each wheel has their own height sensor, and if it reads the reading, the resistance reading is not correct, if there is an open circuit, that means that the height sensor is damaged and is not reading well. So the ECU can't read the height of that wheel and triggers a malfunction on the system. So this is one of the things I think is most likely to happen, and it's very easy to diagnose and to repair. So I think time to time to replace all the sensors may be a good option. The valve block, leaks in the valve block, I think it's another device that can have a malfunction. I never had a malfunction on my valve block. I have now the O-rings to replace. I haven't done that yet. I will, but I have the car for 20 years now and never had a problem with the valve block. It's a good maintenance job to replace them before they start leaking. Okay, the compressor, yes, it's one of the main and more expensive devices that breaks very easily and expensive to repair. I think it's very easy to make a longer life for the compressor. The main reason for the compressor to wear down is because it's always working. You can't hear it work when it's working, and so it may be working for several hours and you can't understand it that it is working, and starts being very hot, and the wear, it's very likely to happen, and the compressor goes away, and you need to replace the compressor. That's a bit expensive, and worse than that, it may fail you when you don't want to fail, in the middle of the field or in the woods, or when you are going off-road or something, and you don't want the compressor to fail on a moment like that. So other electrical malfunctions that may happen, the fuses and the relays, but this is very easy, because if you have a malfunction with a relay, you just need to replace it, no problem at all. You just have to carry with you some relays to replace, and know what relay you need to replace. I have a little box that can diagnose the state of the relay, if it's working or not working. Whenever I have a problem with the relay, I test it. If it's not working very well, I replace it wherever I am. It's very easy. The fuses may also blown up, but this will indicate that may be some other problem with the car. So pay attention if the fuse blows up. Maybe it's need some more attention on the system, on cables, or overheating compressor, or something else. Okay, but fuses and relays, it's really easy to diagnose and replace. About the self-leveling relay timer, never failed to me, but if it fails, the system will stop. I put a switch on the relay to disconnect it, but for the self-leveling not to work, as I have explained before. And the ECU, okay, it's an electronic device, can also have a malfunction, and stop working, and in this case I think it's very hard for people, ordinary people, to diagnose, and you need to replace the ECU. Now, these are the points that I think are more fragile. The air springs, the height sensor, the valve block, and the O-rings that you need to replace them. The compressor is the main thing. And then fuses and relays have some spares, and the ECU, or the relay, the timer relay, if it has a problem, it also needs to be replaced. So what have I done to improve reliability on this system? I have done several things. The first thing was I put a switch on the black wire that grounds the relay. If I open the circuit, the relay doesn't work, and the air suspension stops working. Doesn't perform the self-leveling. You can't go up, you can't go down. What do I do with this? When I'm off-roading, I don't want the car to go up, to go down. I just want it to be there in the position that there is the suspension. So I activate this switch, and the car doesn't perform self-leveling. It can also be used to make a reset of the air suspension. If you have a malfunction and all the 4 LEDs on the dash are on, if you interrupt the self-leveling, the system will make a reset, and then it may start working again. If it doesn't, it's because it's a permanent malfunction, and then you need to diagnose. So switch on the timer relay, I think, is a good thing. The compressor is one of the main parts and can fail you whenever you least expect. So what have I done? I put a second compressor. I have my car with 2 compressors. The second unit is, I got one from the Mercedes S-Class or something like that. It's very similar to the Range Rover compressor, and I have 2 compressors that I can switch, I can toggle between one and another. I have on the cockpit a switch that connects one compressor or the second compressor. Another, I think, great improvement for me is that I put a light on the dash near the steering wheel, and whenever the compressor works, whenever it's compressor 1 or compressor 2, the LED goes on. That shows me immediately how long and the compressor is working. If it's working too long or too short, it's very easy to understand if the compressor is working too much. Another thing that I put on the system is an air gauge. It tells you the pressure that is on the reservoir. Okay, I know at all times if the reservoir has air or if it doesn't has air. It's important because if you are low on pressure, it means that the compressor is not putting air on the reservoir. By the other hand, if you notice that the LED is working for too long, for me is indicator that the compressor is not having enough compression. Because it works too hard, but it takes too long to put the air in the reservoir. Then I put several air valves on the system, so I can cut the air here from between the compressors, the reservoir, and the main blocks. I can cut the air there, and I put a new feed in for external air. For example, on every gas station, I can put air directly, not on the wheels, but directly, when I open this valve, directly to the reservoir. Maybe I do a video in the future for explain how I did this, but this is what I have in my car. 2 compressors, 1 pressure gauge, 1 LED, light, on red light telling me that which compressor is working, 1 valve for feed in air from the gas station or some other source, and then valves that control the air from the reservoir or from the feed, the external feed in to each one of the wheels. So let me illustrate how can I diagnose a malfunction on the system. Some days ago my car triggered a malfunction. The air suspension, the four LEDs start blinking, and my compressor started running and stopping, and the car going up and down, and not stable. You can see there the red light. It's my compressor indicator, and I have also the pressure gauge. There you can see the system is plenty of air, and the compressor runs and stops, runs and stops. So what I try to do first is to disconnect the timer, the timer delay unit, to see if the system starts working again. Here I can inhibit, that I'm doing, inhibit the relay, and then you can see the system is not blinking, the system is blocked, there's no air suspension at this point. Then I reconnect the relay, now it's on, so the system is rebooted and now it's working normal again. To understand the source of the problem, I connected my OC-I total, my diagnosis tool, set it for Land Rover, for the Range Rover P38, and then the chassis option, air suspension option, using the right cable, turning ignition on, and I discovered where is the problem. Reading error, so the problem is on the front right sensor. That's what tells me the OC-I. So before going underneath the car, I put the car in safety to locate and remove the height sensor. In the front there are two height sensors, one on each wheel. This is the sensor on the left wheel. It's equal and it's the same part number as the right wheel, so you can switch between one or another. This is the right wheel, this is the one that has a malfunction, so I'm going to remove it. Before removing the sensor, I took a note about the position where the sensor is when it's in high, medium, low or excess position. To diagnose the condition of the height sensor, I connected it to a multimeter with the option to measure resistance, and then I try to make the reading on every position, and you will find that there is a position that I can't get any reading, so there is an open circuit. It means the sensor is not reading on that position. Okay, around here there is no reading, and then starts reading again. So there's a point, I guess it's where the sensor usually works. It wears down, and then it makes no connection. So now it's reading, and when I go down again, you will see there's a point that it has no reading. So this sensor needs to be replaced or to be toggled, to be switched by the other side. I'll explain it ahead. So you can see around here that there is no reading, open circuit here, so something like this. In this position the sensor is not reading, and there's the location where the sensor it works the most, between low and medium height. Now that I have identified the zone where the sensor is faulty, I'm trying to understand if I change this sensor to input it on the left side and to take the one on the left side to put on the right side. Does this one from the right works well on the left side? In theory, if you put the sensor from the right side on the left wheel on the front, it may work because the faulty part, the faulty zone of the sensor doesn't match the zone where the left sensor operates. So one way to solve these issues is to change sensors. You can switch the left to the right side and the right to the left side. Anyway, I didn't use the faulty sensor, and I installed a new sensor on the right wheel, and the system started working fine. Now the malfunction went away and everything is working okay now. You can see also here my pressure gauge that indicates the pressure that is on the reservoir, and on the right you can see the red LED lighting on whenever the compressor starts working. So this is my first video about the electronic air suspension of the Range Rover P38. I plan to do some more explaining the other devices that I have installed in the air suspension system. Please see my other videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Thank you. Bye bye.